Welcome to episode number 7 of StreamQuest. Here I am with John and Drew. Hey guys, what's happening?
Hello. Hey, how you doing, Ralph?
I'm good. Drew, you good?
I'm good. I'm
Drew
good. I
took-
had my second shot and no side effects.
Second vax, feeling good.
So-
right?
Oh, nice.
I feel very lucky. I wish the same for my wife this week and Ralph and his son next week. So,
Next week we get the
Oh,
second
very
vax.
nice. I'm happy for you guys.
Moderna.
thank
Yeah.
you.
You're welcome.
I guess we'll just launch right into this. Talk about what we want to talk about. What you've seen this
Ralph,
week.
wait, before we begin,
Yes.
I got to just say something that I watched. It was just like, I mean, it blew me away. I was online actually on YouTube, and I saw this show Yippee-Ki-Yay, right? Which
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of, but
I've heard of
but it was one from ages ago, and it was kind of like it had kind of an Arsenio Hall vibe because there was a couch, there were guests on it. You were in it, by the way, and you had this giant phallic symbol right in front of your mouth the whole time,
Just like I do
But
now.
I just got to tell you, Ralph,
different.
My wife and I watched it, and I got to tell you something. It was Yippee-Ki-Yay Classic, and that's
You
all
must
I'm
be.
gonna say
Well,
about
actually, you're referring to Yippee-Ki-Yay Throwback.
Oh, Throwback.
yes,
I thought
yes.
it was Yippee-Ki-Yay Classic.
No, it's Throwback because that was a pre-COVID early Yippee-Ki-Yay podcast. Actually, it wasn't quite early because the pool table was gone by then.
Yeah.
And it's the show about the movie The Counselor, which is on our audio podcast. But I had video of it, and I decided to show the video
Right.
again because that's
but
our
the
patron.
movie's almost it was almost irrelevant because what was really riveting was the actual broadcast. Far more riveting than, from what I can understand, the film. 'Cause
Well,
it
you've
doesn't
never
sound like
seen the
anyone
film,
liked
so you can't say anything
No,
about
but
it.
I don't think I have to based on what I saw in this.
Perhaps. I think
It was
you're-
amazing. But I will tell you. Sorry, Ralph. Go ahead.
I think you're being funny, maybe. I'll take the compliment, of course, but I think
What,
you're
like
being,
a clown? What do you mean? I'm like a clown? I'm
yeah,
here to
you
amuse
are
you,
actually.
Ralph?
In this case, I think you're being a little clownish, but that's
Actually,
fine.
the thing
if it
I like
gets-
the most is I'm hoping we get to do something like that with all of us in the same room.
Yeah,
would
we're
be
talking
very
about
nice.
that.
I would love to do that.
We're talking
Yeah.
about
In
that.
shorts.
I would love to do
Definitely
that.
in shorts.
Yeah. Well, I'm not comfortable.
I
in
was
shorts.
in shorts. I was in shorts. Thank you very much.
I
We
know
had-
you were,
we had
but
a
I,
pizza
you know,
box
it's
in
tough
there.
for me
We had
because
some
I have to
beers.
wear
We were drinking
longer
beers.
shorts than most
Hassan, I
people.
think, was to my left. He barely said anything, and
I thought that
Al.
was one of those crash dummies.
That was
Hassan.
No, it's
Oh.
a real doll.
he said three or
It's a
four
real doll.
words. That was early Wojo. That was when Wojo was officially introduced to the show. She had been on the show as
Yep.
an adjunct professor, but that was an official.
Yep.
She became an
She's
official
tenured
member.
now.
We officially met Brad as well, who was sitting off.
Yeah,
Uncle
I heard
Al.
his voice.
Al, you
and
couldn't
Uncle
see.
Al was
Disembodied
you know,
voice, which fits him perfectly.
He was so Uncle Al. It's just his calling card. It was amazing.
He hated the film.
And
Well, they all did.
and Sean
But he was
Sean
articulate about it.
was not only the raunch factor was like 11, but he was really funny too.
Yes, he was. And partly,
funnier
as you
than he
know,
is
the
currently.
new setup is we have a couple of spouses in boxes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that limits Sean's ability to be that raunchy,
that curbs
funny
the
dude.
comedy, I think.
Because
I
he's
think it
always
curbs the
deferring to his
comedy.
spouse. Well,
And
now
the
that you mention
raunchiness.
it, let me bring us back to our show called StreamQuest. Yeah, I'll talk about some other stuff, but I want to mention one thing that YouTube is part of streaming as well, obviously.
Yeah, obviously.
And in the middle of doing my YouTube, going down rabbit holes, whatever, I landed on this series of clips from Saturday Night Live that I had never seen before. And I just lost my shit when I saw this stuff. And it's an ESPN Classic thing that they would do. And it was Jason.
Yeah.
Jason.
I don't know anything about anything.
Well, Jason Sudeikis and Will Ford play two commentators
Yeah.
who are all they do is lady sports, not lady sports, but sports that are it's ladies
Bowling.
version. So they're doing bowling and
Yeah.
golf,
Yeah.
but they're always sponsored by a female product, right? And the way these two the play that they had was
How do
just
they keep a
fantastic.
straight
And I
face
literally
through it?
watched 8 in a row. I had
Yeah.
never seen these when they aired. And they were pretending like they aired in 1994, 92, 82. At one point, they even, we have this bulletin comes in because it's 1994. And it's OJ, the OJ chase, and they show the Bronco and all that. And it's just something I landed on by accident. And
Make sure you use the jelly if you don't want something in the belly.
Right. And he would always end with some crazy stuff. Anyway.
I don't know where
Who was that?
I am.
It was Jason
Sudeikis and Will Forte.
And
it's very
yeah,
funny.
they're great.
What's her name? Would always
Yeah.
play one of the ladies.
Kristen Wiig
would always play one of
Yeah.
the ladies, and the guest
Yeah.
would always be the other.
Yeah.
And
Those
they're
are
not
great.
making fun
I've
of the
watched
ladies.
those.
They're making fun of the two guys and the way they're
Well, that's right.
cutting to the live ads for the female products. It's just so good. It's just anyway. Having said that, you guys, what do you want to talk about? Drew, we'll start. Let's start. What do you got? What do
Well,
you got?
you mentioned Kristen Wiig, so that's thank you for teeing that up. I watched a movie that I really was afraid to watch. I saw the trailer and I said, this is either right up my alley or it's crap. And Barb and Star Go to Vista Del Mar, written by and starring Kristen Wiig and Annie Mumolo, is so funny. It was fantastically funny, absurdly funny, and I highly recommend it. We rented it from Amazon, and it's just a riot. It's just really funny. It's ridiculous. So if you like ridiculous stuff like Wet Hot American Summer, then you'll like Barb and Star a lot. And
Barb
it's very,
and Star?
very funny. Barb and Star Go to Vista Del Mar.
I've
It's,
never even
Was
heard
that
of
that was filmed last year? I mean, that came out last year, or did it come out this year?
It was supposed to come out. I don't even know what year movies come out means anymore. That's the problem.
Well, I know.
I think it
You're
was
right.
supposed to come
You're right
out
about
sometime last year or this year, and then it ended up coming out of being available for rental, I think, more recently than not. But the trailer came out a while ago, so that's the other thing.
Yeah, I saw
the
the
trailer, and the
trailer.
trailer's ridiculous. It starts with a chubby Asian kid delivering newspapers and singing, and it just goes from there. And it's right up there with like ludicrous Austin Powers, the first good one, like all sorts of crazy, ridiculous stuff and unexpected story stuff, and a great cast. And it was great. I want to watch it again.
The thing about Kristen Wiig is she usually plays the same. Now I know she does serious roles. She did some with her guest on the guy she used to work with on Saturday Night Live.
She did one with Bill Hader.
That one, Bill Hader.
She did one with Bill
She
Hader.
did kind of.
Yeah.
When she does her comedy. Now I don't know if this is. I'm going to look at it now, but I don't know. She always plays Kristen Wiig. You know, that kind of. Like she
kinda
did in
mumbles a little bit when
Ghostbusters
she talks,
and
yeah.
Wonder Woman. She even did the
She-
same thing in Wonder Woman, where it's always like she does that little whisper thing at the end of her.
Yeah.
She
And-
definitely is Kristen Wiig, but she plays more than one role in the movie, and they're
Oh.
very distinct. They're very distinct roles.
Well, that's good.
They're so distinct that when I saw the there's one character you're like, oh, that's Kristen Wiig, and then the other character appears, and I was like, who is that? Is that Tilda Swinton? Who? And you realize it's also Kristen Wiig. I was like, oh, you got me. You definitely got me. It's
that's
very
good.
it's
Well,
very
outside
funny.
of
Like,
movies,
if you
on
like
Saturday Night
Pop
Live, she
Star,
was great.
Yeah.
she was very funny. If you like Pop Star,
Yeah,
Never
she
Stop,
was.
Never Stopping, that
Yeah,
Andy Samberg
it's all right.
movie, that kind of ridiculousness, this is like that. I mean, it's the two of them. Annie, I think I'm pronouncing her name right, Mumolo. They're the ones. They wrote Bridesmaids 10 years ago, and got an
Which
Oscar
was
nomination.
hilarious.
And then they have
That
not,
was
as far as I know, they have not written anything that's been made since then. And so they wrote this together, and they co-star in it, and it's got Jamie Dornan and a number of other great people in it, and it's a lot of fun.
That's awesome. Good.
You should watch the trailer, and then you'll pretty much know if that's what you want to watch or not.
Yeah.
It's great,
Yeah,
especially
you said
for
you streamed that on
being
Amazon.
locked up.
And
I
you
rented
watched
it on
that
Amazon, you know, for $4 or whatever. I stream watched
Oh, that's all it was?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so.
Awesome.
That's
John?
good.
$4. I think it was on
Anything
sale
special?
this weekend.
Nobody was $19.
No kidding.
Well, that's a early access. Welcome to COVID world. I guess we're after when Barb and Star would have been in the theaters. I don't know if it was ever available for $20 or not, but when we rented it, it was the usual.
I didn't mind paying $20 for it because I would have spent that much at the movie theater, so that didn't bother
Right.
me for that particular
Right, I did
movie.
that with a few movies too. So
Yeah. Well, so I watched a couple of things, but I guess I don't know what I want to talk about. On our other show, we're going to do Hard Day's Night. So it got me thinking about not musicals, but movies with performers in it, rock stars, whatever you want to call it. So I'm on Turner Classic Movie all the time, and they've got a great on-demand list. And I know when most people think of Turner Classic Movies, they think of old black and white movies that some of us love and some of us don't like. But there's actually a lot of 70s and 80s stuff. So one of the things I was flipping through because right now they currently have Hard Day's Night. There's two movies that I also watched. One was Elvis, The Way It Is, which was a 1970s concert film with a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff. You saw him very differently than his other movies. It was real kind of slice-of-life thing. It was really, really well done, and they remastered it, too, with a lot of new footage. It was really excellent, and everyone knows I'm a huge Elvis fan. And, you know, people think of Elvis, they think of the glitzy Vegas performer. If you really want to know who Elvis is, watch the 68 special. He's fantastic
are you talking about,
in it.
You talking about Elvis Costello? Are you talking about Elvis Stoico?
Uh-oh. Watch out, Drew.
First of all,
his
Drew,
hand is going to come through your
talk
box
about
and
my
pull your
mother.
tongue out.
Don't talk about Elvis, okay?
No,
Elvis,
I want to talk about
pelvis.
Elvis. I just don't know which one. I just want to make
No.
sure which
Elvis
one.
When
Presley,
now, when you
greatest-
say Elvis, now come on, Drew. I know you're teasing him right now, but
I am
He
teasing.
is
John.
when you
teasing.
say
This
Elvis-
is a bit. This is a bit. What we
no
say,
bit.
Ralph.
he didn't work that out with me, so it can't be a
And
bit.
the other one I watched, I also want to preface this. So
Jazz hands.
I'm familiar with Abba, okay?
Yeah.
And like Mamma Mia,
Yeah.
Muriel's Wedding, love the music. I know nothing about Abba other than they're from Sweden. In fact, this
You
is
don't
how
even know how to say
little
their name. My God.
Abba.
It's Abba.
This is how.
Abba.
This is how. Actually, some pronounce it Abba, and some
No,
pronounce it
Abba
Abba.
means
So-
dad in Hebrew, so Abba is the
Okay,
correct
Abba.
pronunciation.
Abba. Which, by the way,
Abba.
the four letters are the first letters of each of their names. I did not know
Yes.
that.
Yes.
I also didn't know. I never heard them speak, so I didn't even know they spoke English. I thought they sang phonetically. So I ended up watching. There was a movie called Abba, the movie that was made in 1977,
Yeah.
and I said I'm going to watch a little of it just to kind of get a vibe of the rock and roll thing. I ended up watching the whole thing, and I was like. I was so I loved the music and watching them perform, which I really hadn't seen. I heard them a lot. I never really watched their videos and stuff. But the movie was really their 5-concert tour of Australia that was freaking gigantic. And they made a film around it about a DJ who has to get an interview with them or he's going to lose his job. So there's these little snippets of the DJ, but it's really about the concert.
So it does have
was
a little
phenomenal.
narrative. It has a little narrative
does.
story around the show. I
It
didn't
was
know
so
that. Okay.
It was so good, and and Ralph, you talk about rabbit hole, right? So now all I've been doing, I've been watching all these YouTube videos of them. Like the Waterloo was their first hit. They were on like a European Star Search show, and it was all these different countries with acts, and they were against Olivia Newton-John, and they won, and that's what. Made them famous. And the other thing was, I thought the guys did a lot more singing as a group, but it's not. It's really the two women in it are really ABBA because it's their voices, and it was just incredible. And then when you watch A Hard Day's Night on top of that, I just love that genre. And if it's a good act. Like, I was so into the music of Hard Day's Night. I was into the music of the Elvis movie, and I was certainly into the music of this much more than I thought I was going to be. And now, my wife always says this, I get obsessed with stuff. So now, Alexa, play something from ABBA. So I'm listening to Waterloo 5 times a day. She's going crazy. I loved it. And just to tell you the contrast, now this is not music related at all. On Turner Classic Movie, they also ran Night of the Hunter. I don't know if any of you guys have seen this movie.
Sure.
It stars Robert Mitchum, and it was directed by Charles Lawton. And it is a disturbing movie. But I've never seen it before. I knew about it, but I never saw it. It was so good and dark.
Yeah.
And it was
One of
like
a kind.
it was really like a dark fairy tale. That's kind of what it was like. And Robert Mitchum was fantastic in it. And I'm kind of sorry Charles Lawton never directed again because he directed a very Hitchcockian, a little German expressionism. But I love Turner Classic Movies, and for people out there who think it's only like really old movies, it's not. It's a great channel. They've got great stuff on demand. Take a look at it, and I think you might find some good stuff on it. So that's all I wanted to talk about.
I want to say 2 quick things about this. First of all, HBO Max is currently running a Turner Classic Movies
just gonna
Film
mention
Festival, which is great because they have a lot of movies that people might not find if they're not interested in TCM. Like you're saying, it's a lot of good movies, and they look great. I watched A Hard Day's Night on HBO Max, and it looked great, it sounded great, all that stuff. And the Star Search show that you were talking about, because I don't want to get letters from our friends across the pond, is the Eurovision Song Contest, which we as Americans can't really fathom how huge that Eurovision Song Contest is and has been. And then Will Ferrell just
parodied that.
Right.
Yeah, and that movie was okay.
I like that movie, but
it did get an Oscar nomination
Will Ferrell
for a song.
Yeah, with I can't think of the name.
With Rachel McAdams, and it was funny. Rachel McAdams, yeah. So that was a Eurovision movie, and that was probably the first time that a lot of Americans ever.
That's a really real thing. I mean, they were in that movie. It's because you're saying, it's a real thing, and it's huge over there.
And it's a big deal when it can make and break careers. Like you said, Abba was it 74? I think they won with Waterloo, and it became a smash. And I mean, Israel won the first time that it won, and that was like a huge national celebration, like every other country and that wins it that has ever never won it or hasn't won it in a long time. And we don't really have anything equivalent. Like we have a lot of different kinds of talent shows and stuff, but nothing that the whole country gets excited because we're competing against the rest of the continent.
Well, it's like a musical Olympics, right? I mean, that's really what it was. Yeah. Every country is represented.
Pride.
Yeah.
Sadly, Maria does not like ABBA. And I found that out after we started dating, which is fine.
Oh boy!
Once
nobody's perfect.
You can't turn back at that point. And I'm trying to get her interested.
It's such happy music. I mean,
you could easily into it with Mamma Mia.
You talk about going down a rabbit hole. I love that stuff. Any movie it's in, like the energy in that movie. I'm not just talking about the ABBA movies, but Muriel's Wedding.
Muriel's Wedding. Oh yeah,
and movies like that. Anytime you hear an ABBA song in a movie, it's just fun. And anyway, I was going to mention the same thing Drew did. Turner Classic Movies, TCM, right? They're doing a whole bunch of interviews with Ben Mankiewicz, and he just did one on the West Side Story group, and he interviewed Rita Moreno, the guy who played
Russ
Bernardo,
Tamlin,
and Russ Tamlin.
George Chakiris and Russ Tamlin.
I was shocked that Rita Moreno's 89 years old.
Yeah, I know.
And looks fantastic. It's unbelievable. Yeah. And she is playing the wife of Poppy or something. She's definitely, or somehow she's part of that story. So
she's in the trailer for a moment. She's definitely in it.
It really is jazzing me up to see the new Steven Spielberg West Side Story. I know, John, you're hesitant, but I can't wait to see that.
I'm not hesitant.
And to see these guys and talking about West Side Story and what it meant to them was pretty good. And that's all on HBO Max. So Ben Mankiewicz is interviewing people. I think he's got director of Misery, Rob Reiner's doing something, a bunch of other people. And speaking of HBO Max, it's some good news I have. It's now on Roku. They've decided to put that on Roku, which is great.
Yes.
And I think eventually, YouTube TV, they're going to cut the deal on Roku as well. So, all my worries are kind of dwindling. And
it's all a negotiation tool. I just read an article.
I'm letting these monopolies control my life, but whatever.
Well, did you hear what Google is doing?
Yes.
They're putting the YouTube TV functionality in the YouTube app.
Right.
For Roku, so you might not have a YouTube TV app that works, but you have YouTube, and they'll let you sneak through to that. So you're right; it's all theater for negotiations.
And really, all it means is you can't get YouTube TV new now on Roku. Like if I have it, I already have it, and they're not canceling it out, and I can still get at it through my YouTube thing anyway. So it's their work.
Right.
They don't want to lose. It's all big money for everybody.
They'll work it out.
They'll work it out.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean anything to us as the audience unless they cut it off.
If they cut it off, that's a big problem. And So what I want to talk about is one thing I watched. I've watched a few things. I'm finishing I keep watching the Mayor from Easttown, which is just great. And Saturday Night Live's already parodied it. They parodied it this weekend. Making fun of murder, all the Pennsylvania accents. So that means it's big if it's already parodied. One of my shows,
it should be big.
I never told you guys this, but one of my infomercials I did for Time Life, the Best of Soul Train, was my infomercial was parodied directly on Saturday Night Live. They used my graphics and everything. So I was very
excited. Oh, really?
I felt like I hit the lottery with that one. That was great.
You did.
Anyway, I watched on Netflix this docu-series called Worn Stories. Worn, W-O-R-N Stories. Okay. It's people talking about clothing, how important some clothing is in their life, okay? And they're little snippet stories, and I'll just give you a couple examples. One is this guy who was in Tina Turner's rock band, I think in the early 70s, and they're in Amsterdam or somewhere, and she convinces this guy to wear a codpiece. And he became known as the codpiece-wearing saxophone player. And its whole story is about how important this codpiece was in his life. And what's interesting is he gives us the whole run about how in the 80s, he was huge because everybody had saxophone in their music videos and in their music. And then all of a sudden, nobody's using saxophones anymore. And it all centers around this codpiece that he had. And he ends up in the film, what's the film he ended up doing a bit part in? Oh, Lost Boys. There's a concert they do. And he's highlighted in the movie as the rock and roll saxophone player with the codpiece, and his career goes back through the roof, and he's back on. It's just great. Another nice story is a woman who got a one-of-a-kind coat that I guess in New York they have these design things where you can go in to fashion stores and you can look at clothing before the clothing's designed. So she finds this beautiful white coat that when it actually comes out, when the design comes out, it's not a white coat. It's like a green one or a blue one. So she has an original designed coat that she wears. So the first time she wears it, she puts it in a coat check room with her cell phone in its pocket. And the coat check loses her dress, her jacket. And the whole story is about her and her cousin have to go through New York using a Find My Phone app to find this coat. And they spend all night. And the story ends up being how these cousins connected because of this piece of clothing that she lost in a thing. Or another story is a nudist colony. They don't deal with clothes, so they do this whole segment on this nudist colony, and it's not what you think. There's one that's all old white nudes, and one African American woman who walks around without her clothes on, and they're talking about the importance of how it's to be free. It's just great little stories. People about their ties.
So that last one you were talking about, that's basically a throwback to HBO's Real Sex series.
It could be. It sort of had that vibe.
A lot of naked hippies that you're like, oh, they're naked. I don't know that that's
you see a lot
exciting,
of boob,
but they're naked.
Not a lot of anything else. And you really don't want to see it, but it's great. It's great how comfortable everybody is, and the stories look like they're going to be very interesting. Nice little snippets of people's how important clothes are.
How long are the
They
episodes?
run about 20 minutes each.
Okay.
Each little story, and they intersperse them. So you like the saxophone guy's talking for a little bit, then they go to another story and they resolve the saxophone guy, and it's just a lot of fun. And we all have that. We all have those clothing that become very important in your life, and I just found it fascinating. And that's on Netflix. That's a Netflix docuseries.
What piece of clothing, Ralph, is very important in your life?
My Freddie Mercury leather jacket that I have.
Is it
My
made
yellow
of
Freddie
actual
Mercury
Freddie
jacket.
Mercury?
And what's the why? Why is it so significant? Other than the fact that you are the center of attention at events when you wear that.
That could be it.
Why?
I just love Freddie Mercury, and I started.
You become a different person when you put it on.
I started wearing it to costume parties and things, and then I'd walk into bars, and people think you're Freddie Mercury. It's crazy. It's
straight bars or gay bars?
Doesn't matter. I don't care.
Who cares?
I like that.
As
Okay.
long as he's got
care.
the cod piece.
Okay.
Yeah.
Both sides of the fence. Very good,
That's
Ralph.
one piece that I cherish. I wore it to my son's wedding. I didn't try to take any attention away from the bride, but I actually I made him show a picture
if you're
of
going
it.
to wear a Freddie Mercury jacket, you're probably gonna.
Yeah.
Right? You know what I'm saying?
What's your piece? Do you have a piece of clothing that is special to you?
Yeah, cod piece. I have a
Okay,
cod
good.
piece.
Are you the saxophone player? The rock and roll saxophone?
No, I just have a cod piece. That's all. I was
There's
a big
some very
Batman
nice
Forever
stories
fan.
about grandmothers who make ties, and you'll see. It's touching. It's really nice. So
I can't think of. I mean, I can't think of like a piece of clothing that I'm like.
Well,
you don't have a
do
lucky.
you consider
nothing like
Do you consider a merkin clothing?
what's
'Cause I know
merkin?
you have a
Do I
lot
consider
of
what?
those. Merkins, a pubic wig, is that clothing or?
But does anybody see that? I mean, I guess if you're in a nudist colony, they would see that. But
I mean, it's
you don't have a
really
piece of
whether
clothing
want
that
them
you
to or
wear
not.
that you go, I look good in this, or if I'm, if I lucky.
Well,
this,
Ralph,
or-
you just described half my wardrobe.
well. Okay.
Well, I do
I
have
look
my
good just about anything.
my weightlifting competition singlet, so I haven't worn that in a while. but
Is this?
it's pretty hot.
You're very focused on what's a singlet, by the way. Before I
Singlet
It's
is
like a
a one-piece
onesie
outfit that weightlifters and wrestlers compete in. You would honestly think of it as like an old-fashioned Andre the Giant type of thing.
Okay, so it's
except
like
an actual adult is wearing it, and often you wear a shirt under it, but you don't have to. You could just wear a codpiece, I guess, but they're pretty strict about what you can and can't wear as far as what's going to give you an advantage or not. So.
Well, I'm going to say this now, and now that I say this, a lot of people won't be able to use this trick that I do, but I used to do this. I do this thing that if someone says, I like the hat you're wearing or I like the shirt you're wearing, I will give them the hat or the shirt.
Yeah. Yeah.
That works. My kids
my godfather,
know. It's just the thing. People go crazy.
Him?
Yeah. What's that? Your godfather what?
My godfather used to do that, and you know what happened to him?
What?
He's dead.
Okay. Well, because of that?
I guess
because
he probably
of that?
got cold or something. He kept giving away his clothing.
No. So the only thing is when your kids are part of this or they know what's going on, it gets a little tricky. So one day I'm going through the grocery store and I'm at the cashier and I'm wearing my favorite hat. Now I do have favorite hats that I wear, my fun hats, whatever.
Yeah.
And the
Not
cashier
anymore.
says, wow, I like that hat. And I just kept putting my food in and Bella says, Dad, she said she liked the hat. I'm like, Bella, quiet, don't say anything. So I sometimes break the rules. If I only have one of the thing or if I really, really like the hat, I can't. But I've given away shirts. I've given away hats. And now anybody that watches this can't, if you know it, you can't use it. So that's it.
That's right. That's the rule.
Anyway,
Well, you know,
Netflix, this
I
just
really
brings up.
I really like your Freddie Mercury jacket.
See? Now you know. I've indemnified you from being able to do that. I don't know if that's the right word. You should watch Warren Stories. It's good. It's on Netflix.
Warren Stories. Okay.
Sounds awesome.
I don't know. That's what I got. I don't watch. It turns out we do so many of these podcasts that really I spend most of my time trying to watch the movies we're going to talk about.
Right. And
So-
editing.
And I'm editing all the time, so I don't really. Oh, I should talk about, speaking of editing and good shows, Red Letter Media. Drew sent me the thing. I just watched it. They did a 25-minute show on where they put all their DVDs, the shelves that they built.
It's not that long,
Yeah,
but
I
it's
saw.
funny.
It's 25 minutes.
I saw a couple of those. That's riveting.
It was riveting.
It's funny.
Spines
It's
in,
hosted by
spines out.
the incomparable Rich Evans. I mean,
Yeah.
it's amazing.
I didn't realize those guys. They do all their own carpentry and they do all their own.
Well,
stuff.
they're from the middle of the country, so they
Yeah.
know how to do stuff.
I'm fascinated.
Oh,
So-
Drew, I watched half an episode of that. What is it? Frank from Ireland? Is that what it's called?
Yes, on Prime. Yeah,
Yeah, I couldn't get past the first episode.
yeah. We gave it a chance
was awful.
through the second, and the second is better than the first. But it's definitely
It
if
is.
you don't like it, you're not going to like it later. I mean, the
Yeah,
tone
I
is,
just and I
is what
thought
it
I
is.
liked it. Like the first few minutes, I thought it was kind of funny, and then I'm like, this
But that's
is
it.
stupid.
That's all there is.
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
a couple things I want to bring this up because I hadn't seen this in a long time. I watched the second half of Hot Tub Time Machine.
oh, it's great.
What a funny movie, man!
great.
I'm dying. They're f-bombing and
It's so stupid,
that-
and the whole gag about Christian Slater's,
but they're making
not
fun
Christian
of all
Slater.
their '80s movies. That's
Yeah.
what I liked about it.
And that's
and the
Sebastian
other thing I'm
Stan's
watching-
playing the nerd,
Yes, which he's so young,
right?
and what's his name? The guy
He's
who
not a
loses his
nerd.
arm.
Yeah, the
He's
guy
not the
from
nerd. He's the
no,
cool guy.
no, he's
right?
not a nerd.
Well,
the guy
He's
who
the
loses his
the
arm.
bully, the asshole.
Yeah. He's in
Crispin Glover.
Back to the
Crispin
Future.
Glover. That whole thing was hilarious till he finally loses his arm. Right. I started watching, we talk about superhero movies a lot. Well, Netflix has got this show called Jupiter's Legacy, which is based on a graphic novel, which I never heard of. And I didn't even know it was on Netflix. And I saw this ad for it. Josh Duhamel, is that his name? Josh
Duhamel?
Duhamel, thank you. He's the lead in it. I watched the first 3 episodes. They've all got this... The Boys, Invincible, the R-rated superhero movies, and this is right along those lines. But it spans the 1920s up until present time, and it's like almost 2 different movies about the origin of these superheroes, and in the future they all have superpowered kids. And I've only watched 3 episodes. It's a little slow. But it's kind of interesting. So if you're into that at all, you might want to take a look at this. I broke my own rule. All the episodes have dropped, so I could have watched them all, but it was not an easy thing to get through the first 3. Like The Boys, I breezed through that. This one's a little Invincible, I breezed through it. This one's a little tougher. I like it, but I'm taking my time with it. It's a little harder.
Man, when you
and
guys,
it makes me want to read the graphic novel too.
when the world opens up again, and you're actually working, because right now you're not. You're working, but you're not going out all the time. You think you're going to be streaming like this, like that kind of commitment to do 7 in a row?
I know I would, because when I'm on the road and my meetings are over at 5 o'clock, my next meeting's not till 9 o'clock the next morning. I'll do this instead of watching regular TV,
Or going to
which
strip
I didn't
clubs?
do before.
You don't go to strip clubs?
I never streamed shows when I was on the road back then. I never did it. Now I would definitely do it. I don't know if I could watch 135 episodes of Elementary in 2 weeks. I don't think I could do that if I was on the road again like that. But yeah, I could definitely do this on airplanes.
Drew, you're going to start
Wi-Fi now.
A couple weeks, and you're going to have to your schedule's going to get a little wacky too. So do you
Well,
think you'll be watching as much as
generally-
you do now?
I don't generally watch during the work hours. I like to watch with Kelly, and Kelly is working.
I'm the same way.
And then I'm also doing a lot of other stuff around the house, trying to get a lot of stuff done before I get onto that work schedule.
Washing your
So that's been
sniglet
good.
or whatever it's called.
My singlet, yes.
Your singlet.
It's a
Sniglet.
singlet. It's blue. It's blue.
Nice.
And I have a shirt that has it's Hebrew. It says CrossFit and it has a Jewish star on it in the blue.
Oh,
matches.
nice.
But they wouldn't let me wear it at the
Anti-Semite.
the last
What you did.
competition.
Look how
that I
you
did.
took him off on
that
this
was,
tangent.
That
He
was
was
that was my theory, because they wouldn't let me wear it. They were really rude about it, and then my very first deadlift, which was fine, they said it was a fail, and that psyched me out, and then I bombed out. It was the only one I ever bombed out of. So I blame the anti-Semitism of the judges, not of the whole weightlifting federation. But I think you have to be honest about this stuff when it happens. So
Yeah.
See, he
you
was
gonna do?
going on
No,
a
I'm
nice
with you.
path. You had to do that. All right, let's talk
I
about
do.
the negative
I
side.
support
of
Israel.
I want to talk about the negative side of all this streaming, which is the amount of crap that gets hyped as like real movies that they would never make it in the movie theater, and ends
True.
up. Now we're going to talk about one that I think Drew watched. I don't think John watched this one, called Greenland. Have you seen Greenland, Drew?
yes, why don't you tell people what it's about?
Greenland is 2012. The movie 2012, just done through another guy. Gerard Butler produced this thing. It's a disaster film about the some comets coming across the sky and might land on the Earth, and certain people are getting alerts saying you got to go to a special shelter. You've been picked to go to the special shelter, and it's about this end of the world kind of scenario, and certain people being able to get on a plane and go to this. I guess they're going to Greenland, which is why the movie's named Greenland. It's a disaster.
It's not really a spoiler.
It's not a spoiler. It's the end of a world disaster piece of garbage. But it's hyped. It's hyped up there, like it's on that. It's on a Netflix queue or somewhere, or HBO Max, I think, maybe even.
It's on HBO Max. It's been available for rent through Amazon Prime for a while. I think.
Yeah, 'cause I was at a store
originally one of those
yesterday and
$20
saw-
rental ones.
Yeah.
Now it's on HBO.
What'd you think of it, Drew?
I kind of thought it was awesome.
You're kidding. You're kidding.
I loved it.
You're kidding.
No, I totally loved it. I thought it was going to be like 2012 and Geostorm and
Wait,
all that
how
kind
can
of
I ask
crap.
you? How is it not like 2012? Tell me what was different
Because-
about this one.
Because it has
Gerard Butler wasn't in it.
Gerard Butler instead.
Well, no,
of
Gerard
John
Butler was
Cusack.
in
In 2012.
Geostorm. He didn't make or break Geostorm because it's got real characters in it. It's got it's a different scale. They don't. It's not a $150 million movie. So there's definitely
true.
some shockingly destructive scenes and stuff. But it's not like those other movies where it's just look, the New York Public Library and Madison Square Garden are
Right.
frozen. Look, Paris is destroyed.
Statue
Look,
of Liberty,
Hong
all
Kong
that
is
stuff.
laid out by monsters. All that kind of stuff. There's nothing wrong with that, necessarily. This is not that kind of movie. It feels more like Steven Spielberg's War of the Worlds, in that it focuses on a specific, basically a specific family, and what they go through, and some of what happens to them. And it's hard to say it's realistic or it's not realistic. I mean, some sort of cosmic body actually impacting the Earth, of course, has happened many times.
Oh,
It's
I thought you were
not
going to say
in
the way
our
they
lifetime.
acted was not realistic.
No, I really thought I thought it was great. I thought it was really well done. I want to pick up the Blu-ray and watch it with much bigger sound and everything. I totally dug it. I think I liked it more than my wife did, but I really liked it a lot. Mark Kermode liked it so much he watched it 3 times. Like it's really
I'm
just
shocked
an
by
excellent
that.
example. Of that
I'm
kind of
shocked
movie.
by that because to me, I'm watching the whole film. I love Gerard Butler. I just love that guy. I watch.
I
him
love
in all
Marina
his-
Baccarin.
Like Brad Pitt, love him, Ralph?
No, I just enjoy watching him. I think he's good.
Okay.
I
I
kind of
enjoy
like.
Well,
watching
you enjoy
Marina
watching him in
Baccarin.
movies or showering?
Okay, Brad Pitt's great. So Gerard Butler's not an actor like Brad Pitt, but I just like watching this film. I think he's fun. His Olympus Has Fallen are
Watching the
great.
film.
Those
Yeah.
White House things he does.
300.
I like. You ever see P.S. I Love You? He did with.
Yeah.
I think he's good in that. I never saw 300. I have it. I haven't watched it yet. But I just found this one to be derivative like all of them are. And it's the whole family, all the coincidences that the family can somehow end up getting back together is just ridiculous. And John Cusack, that's what I meant. You're right. Now that you mention it, it's kind of a combination between 2012 and War of the Worlds. Same ideas.
And War of the Worlds is a far superior movie.
Much better.
to
100%.
2012.
I agree with you.
This to me, this movie was basically Deep Impact from the 90s.
Yeah.
With Tay Leone and President
Yeah,
Morgan
sure,
Freeman and all that
sure.
stuff. Except it was good.
Yeah.
Except it was good because I thought the characters were great. I was wondering, like, they split the family up pretty early. That's also not a spoiler. How are they going to get back together? But how they get back together actually makes a lot of sense because if you're traveling, you're going to get stuck the way that the movie lays out. So it's not unrealistic that they would find each other. It wasn't like War of the Worlds where his son says, "Let me go. I want to go fight," and then he just is there at the end of the movie. With no
motivate. The
explanation.
the problem I had with Green. What's the name of
Greenland.
What's the name of the film?
Greenland.
Greenland. I could remember the light comes on. I forget the country. The motivations of some of these side characters were just. I mean, it was both predictable and arbitrary. And if you watch 2012, it ends. These movies basically have the same. Yes, 150 million for 2012, but they have the same premise and they end exactly the same. They end exactly the same with these. I'm not going to say why, but if you know 2012, you know why. But anyway. But my point is, I don't want to get into. I don't want to get into the.
It's one of those style of movies.
I don't want to get into the weeds.
I just think it's a better one.
I don't want to get into the weeds on this particular film. I just think that a lot of films are being hyped because of the streaming services, and they got to fill them up. I mean, you have to fill them up. I'm getting all these notes all the time about when you're on your phone.
This would have been in the theater. This would have been in the theater. I would have gone and seen it in the theater. This would have been
might
a
have
theatrical
because of
release.
Gerard Butler, but I would have been like that Geostorm.
Have you guys heard about? Have you heard about Thunder Force with Melissa McCarthy and Octavia Spencer?
That's on
Yeah,
right
I watched
now.
that. I watched.
You
that.
did watch it? It's
Yeah.
getting destroyed. I mean,
I don't
Well,
think
that's
it
directed
deserves to
by
get
Melissa
destroyed.
McCarthy's husband.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah,
the 5th movie
yeah.
they've done
Yeah,
together.
they keep
Most
trying.
people
Those
don't
guys
like
keep
those
trying.
movies.
He's actually in Bridesmaids.
I mean, they're
Yeah, he's in a
being
bunch of stuff.
vicious. I mean, the Rotten Tomato score is awful. The reviews, if you read the reviews, they're awful.
It's
they're
not
killing.
good. It's not good. It doesn't deserve that kind of hate. It's not good, but it's not trash. It's not garbage.
You
it's
think
not- it's not
what do
good.
you think it would have done if it was released theatrically? Would it have done anything?
I don't know if it was. It's hard to say because I don't even know what the year would have looked like and what other stuff would have come
Yeah,
out.
it's
Like
hard to
sometimes you can look ahead and you can say, well, what's opening this weekend? What's opening that
Yeah.
weekend? What would I see? What do I think people are going to see? I have no idea.
Well,
when
the other
these things would have
films
come out.
the other
Like,
film
if it
she
came
did
out
with
against
her-
Black Widow, it wouldn't have been number one. You know,
The
if
other-
it came
well,
out in February, it might have been number one. So
the other films Melissa McCarthy has done with her husband have bombed.
Right.
Those spy
One of them
movies.
was
Although
good.
she was good. Spy.
liked
I really
Tammy.
like Spy.
Spy is very
I
funny.
like Spy with
But I don't think he
with
directed
Jason-
that one. That's with
Jude
Jason
Law.
Guy from the
Statham, right?
Transporter.
Yeah, no, Ben
Yeah.
Falcone. Ben Falcone did not direct Spy. I think that was Paul Feig that did
Right.
that.
I think you're right.
Yeah, it was
That
Paul
was,
Feig.
that was a fun movie. That was
yeah.
a fun movie.
It
I
was.
enjoyed that movie.
But
I
anyway,
thought she was
again,
good in it.
The streaming, I keep getting these notes on my phone going, this is
Yeah.
Colin Firth's best film. It's now on Netflix.
Right.
Or, all these people
Well,
suddenly have all these
all
films
about
that
getting
are being,
eyes. It's all
being
about getting eyes on
rediscovered.
them, right?
Rediscovering these
Ralph,
films, which is,
that's called advertising.
I understand. But it is what is interesting.
and
Like you're
They're
saying
selling you
about
stuff.
reaching down into your queue that you have and you find something
Right.
you put on your queue 2 years ago and you go in and John's finding, Abba films and stuff. This is we talk about this all the time on the show, but that's what the strength of all this streaming is. And you have a whim
That's-
and you go, I remember this film. I want to find it.
Strong streams make the life a better place. That's what
Look,
I always
you're
say.
just as likely to think of something that is even a little tiny bit obscure, and then you can't find it streaming anywhere, but it did come out on DVD or something like that. So that's I think a problem.
Speaking of the film we're doing on our
with
other show,
this type
Spanking
of
the Monkey,
format.
I could not stream.
Yeah, you can't find that anywhere.
Yeah,
It's David
couldn't
O.
find
Russell's first film. It's got Jeremy Davies, Carla Gallo. It's a it was a real movie. It was the first.
What is
of,
Carla?
David
I
O.
know. I
Russell's.
figured out that kid was the kid in Saving Private Ryan, the one who goes
Yeah,
up
Jeremy
the steps
Davies
and
is Upham.
can't shoot the Nazi, the German
Yep.
soldier, right?
Yep, that's
What's
Jeremy
she
Davies,
done?
yep.
What's Gallo done? Because she
was in Undeclared. She slept with Jay Baruchel in the pilot, and she's in Superbad. I think she's the one who has her period on Jonah Hill's leg at the party.
Right.
She's very funny, and I
Yeah.
think she was also in Carnival. I'd have to look that up.
Okay.
But I think she was one of the dancing girl daughters in that movie. I don't
But it's
remember
funny
for
how
sure.
upset you get when you can't find something streaming wise. Like you think.
Well, because you
think
expect to find anything.
you think everything's available. Why can't I
Right.
find this
And
one?
it's not.
Amazing when you.
Yeah,
do it.
I don't expect that. I don't think you should expect that because there's
no,
there's
you're right.
whole
Wrong.
worlds of movies that are potentially if they stop making physical media, which is ultimately where this seems to be going. Like I want to own and watch movies on disc because that's the best possible picture and sound because it's uncompressed sound. Is it possible that streaming will get there one day? Sure. Is a lot of streaming right now very good as far as those qualities? Absolutely. But if something is on disc, it's on disc. They're not going to make more money on it 10 years later, but they're going to make money now streaming. And if something isn't going to make money that's 10 years old, they're not going to bring it out and stream it. So, it becomes a sort of a different game. And I think when Netflix was the DVD company that we all rented our movies from, they had over 100,000 titles. And now they have 8,000 titles, including their original stuff. I mean, that's a big difference
That's a
right
big
there.
jump.
Now that said, if you want to see stuff that's on DVD and you don't want to buy it, which is totally legitimate, there's a lot of libraries and places that do have physical media collections, and there's stuff that isn't necessarily Criterion licensable, but that's very good and worth seeing, like Spanking the Monkey. That I have it on DVD. It's not streaming anywhere.
Yeah.
And so you'd never find it, and that's too bad. But the streaming, the whole thing is choices. It's lots of choices. It's just that there are even more choices than all the choices that we have, especially if you're feeling a little adventurous or you don't want the most current stuff or the most classic stuff. But there's a lot of good stuff out there, like Greenland, that you can watch.
I disagree with that entirely, but
I loved Spielberg's War of the Worlds. I loved The Impossible with Naomi Watts.
Yeah, that's great. Good one.
And I love Greenland. It's another one of these.
Have you ever
disaster
seen
movies that
The
feels more
Wave?
real to
The
me.
Wave,
That's very good too.
That's
The
a good
sequel
one.
was okay, but The Wave was very good.
right? Or Force Majeure.
I like
you ever
that.
see Force Majeure?
I did. I heard the remake was dreadful.
Terrible.
The
I haven't
Will
seen it,
Ferrell
but-
one.
Anyway,
I haven't
okay,
seen it
enough.
either,
We
but
could
Force
be all
Majeure is
day.
good.
Anything else before we wrap this one up?
Did I
Episode
mention
7?
I think people should watch Greenland because it's very good? I don't remember if I mentioned that.
He did. I disagree,
Oh,
but
okay.
that's what makes this. I'm looking forward to, and I'm sad it's not streaming. The Wrath of Man with Jason Statham that's come out.
Oh, yeah, that
Guy
good-
Ritchie's
looks
great
Wrath of
write-up.
Man, which looks fantastic.
got great
That's supposed to be
reviews.
Guy Ritchie's best thing in a while.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So I'm really looking forward
looked
to
good.
that.
I
one.
love the
I guess I have to go to.
trailer.
It's out
was
in the
really
movie
good,
theater.
yeah.
It's out now.
Yeah.
May 7th it went out. So
Yeah, I'm waiting
Oh, it's
for.
out. Is it on pay-per-view now?
no.
No, it's
I
in
think
the theater.
Oh, it's only in theaters?
I think so.
Yep.
Oh.
I'm waiting. I've been
Good,
waiting
give me an
now,
excuse
I
to go to the
guess,
movies.
a year or more for the sequel to A Quiet Place.
Yeah.
The
Oh,
John
yeah.
Krasinski, Emily
Yeah.
Blunt movie. I thought the first one was great. And then I want to say weeks before the sequel was supposed to come out is when everything got shut down.
Yeah.
So that might be one of the first movies I'd consider going to see because I still haven't been to the theater. So I know you guys went to see Godzilla versus Kong, but I'm not.
Right.
I'm
Did you
not
see the
feeling ready
trailer
that
for the
yet.
new Venom? Did you guys like Venom?
No.
I thought Venom was
Thomas
was,
Hardy? He's good. He was great
It was
in it.
dumb, but it was fun because he was so good.
He's
It was
great.
fun. See,
And,
the way that
Woody
you read that
Harrelson plays
movie,
the bad guy.
it really depends because part of what I figured out that was really fun about Venom. I'm not the only person to have said this, but it occurred to me when I was watching it, and then I did some reading, and some other critics have said this. it's fine as a movie, as a superhero movie. There's a lot of superhero movies that are definitely, they're more esteemed, they're better, whatever. And if you don't follow the comic books, there's not really, unless you've seen Spider-Man 3, it's not a character that everybody recognizes. But Tom Hardy is very good. And if you think of it as a couple squabbling, in this case it would be, I guess, a gay couple, because Venom is male, and they're squabbling in his head. It's really funny. Like, it's actually a really kind of sweet, funny movie about a piece of alien goo that takes over a reporter's life. And certain movies, if you look at them a certain way, like if you watch Drive, the Ryan Gosling movie, it's a beautiful movie. It has a great soundtrack. A lot of what he does in the movie doesn't really make sense unless you think maybe he's a little slow. And if he reads as developmentally disabled or something like that, not in a mocking way, just the way the character is, you go, oh, okay, that's why this is happening and this is that. And because there's movies that, like Venom's concept is just kind of stupid. I don't care, but it was entertaining. It was fun, and I enjoyed it. It was better.
Well, he was so quirky in it. That's why you see that movie.
Yeah, it was
he was
fun. Great
in it, and the sequel looks good too. It looks just as funny too.
I still think we should do a deep dive on the Yippee-Ki-Yay episode of The Counselor. But you guys, we'll table that.
That's a great idea. We should talk about that.
We'll talk about that.
Yeah, let's table that, and then we'll bring it up at one of the other podcasts that we do. But that's a good idea, Ralph. We'll talk about that because there's some podcasts that I watch I'd like to bring to the table, and we can maybe do a reaction video to those. That'd be fun.
I think we could
that's a good idea.
That's all streaming. That's a good idea. So all right,
it's all streaming.
Episode 7's in the books.
All right,
guys, keep on
in the
streaming.
can, as they say.
Keep the stream strong.
Yeah,
and let's see what you got next week. And you guys have a good week.
You also.
All right, see you tomorrow.
All right, guys. See you.
Hard day's night.
Yep.